When I received the invitation from UPLB, I really felt humbled that I was invited to an occasion such as this. Alam ko pong mas marami kayong alam sa akin sa disaster preparedness and climate change. What little I know, I learned from what I saw from my husband. But if you must know, my husband has been mayor of Naga for 19 years. I was never actively involved in his politics. I was never actively involved in his work. I was a full-time wife and mother while being a practicing lawyer and an NGO worker on the side. So what I will be sharing with you now are entirely not original. These were the lessons, these were the small lessons that I learned from observing him as mayor of Naga and as secretary of the DILG. When I was being introduced, the one who introduced me spoke about what I retweeted earlier. Hindi ko po alam kung nagtitwitter kayo. Pero kung nagtitwitter po kayo, kami pong mag-asawa mahilig sa social media. I think it was the week of Yolanda. I was made aware that my husband pala tweeted sometime January 14 of 2012. Ang nakalagay po sa tweet niya, preparedness is not about mobilizing for heavy rains and typhoons. Yung sinabi kanina. It is incorporating disaster proofing in our local development plans. My husband was really very passionate about disaster preparedness. He was very passionate about LGUs being prepared for any eventuality. And I know where he was coming from. He was mayor of Naga for a total of 19 years. Ano po yun? 6 terms. A period in time when our city has been besieged by typhoons almost every year. Alam niyo naman po siguro kung nasaan yung Naga. Geographically, Naga is one of the most typhoon-prone cities in the country. It is located at the southernmost region of Luzon, where typhoons, with their habitual east to northwest route, originating from the Western Pacific, usually pass. Ito po, parang yung climate change na kabuti sa Naga. Mula po nung nararamdaman na natin na grabe yung effects ng climate change, for some reason, hindi na grabe yung bagyo sa amin. I think the last heaviest typhoon that we had was Reming in 2006. And since Reming, we never had another one that strong and that big. To add to the disadvantages, Naga is situated in the Bicol River floodplain. So whenever a typhoon or even a low-pressure area comes across Bicol, the city is sure to experience flooding that will cause safety concerns and economic losses. Ang Naga po kasi, kaya po tinatawag siyang river basin, Bicol River Basin, parang talaga siyang palanggana. Kami po yung pinakamababang part ng Bicol. So talagang konting ulan, bahanan na. Economically, Naga is at a disadvantaged position, being landlocked, devoid of any access to seaborne trade. Its resources are limited and have to be managed well for it to profit and succeed in a market economy. If you are familiar with Naga, Naga is a very small city. Ano po kami? Wala kaming dagat. It is very hard for Naga to compete with some other cities in Luzon. Kasi nasa south na siya masyado, wala kaming access to seaborne trade. And transportation cost is very prohibitive. Hindi lang yung transportation cost, pati yung energy cost. Kahit nanggagaling sa amin yung geothermal energy, ang mahal ng kuryente sa amin. Yung transportation, ang mahal din. So we cannot go into manufacturing because we will never be able to compete with other cities kasi napakamahal nga ng ibang costs. My husband usually said, half in jest, that when God showered His grace on the country, Naga was covered in clouds. Talagang parang inapit. Given these facts, the city government had to act fast and smart to make our city resilient against natural calamities. The city resorted to the strategy that made Naga what it is now, establishing partnerships with local, national, and international civic organizations. In 2001, Naga City piloted the development of a local disaster mitigation plan with support from the USAID-funded Asian Urban Disaster Mitigation Program, if you are familiar with the program. Through this, the city government was able to pinpoint risks and losses associated with flooding and wind strengths of the typhoons. Currently, Naga is part of the Business Risk Assessment and Management of Climate Change Impacts conducted by the Worldwide Fund Philippines and TPI Foundation. I do not know if you are familiar with this project. Ang first phase po yata nito, 8 cities. Yung Naga, I think, was included in the third phase. Yung medyo nakakalungkot lang kasi kasabayatan ng Naga ang pag-aralan ng Tacloban. Ay hindi pa lumalabas yung study o kalalabas lang yung study. Sayang at hindi nagamit yung parang it came a little too late. Pero yung study kung babasahin natin, eksaktong-eksakto sa sinapit ng Tacloban ngayon. Parang sinasabi po dun sa study na parang pag tinamaan yung Tacloban ng very strong typhoon, magiging grabe yung devastation. Kasi yung ano niya, yung plains niya yata is already 1 meter below sea level. Pag tinamaan siya ng grabeng hangin na nahaharang ng bukid, kaya hindi nakakalabas agad yung hangin. Tapos meron siyang parang funnel na pag tinamaan din ng grabeng bagyo, talagang grabe yung chances na magka-storm surge. So parang eksakto sana yung eksakto yung analysis nung WWF. Kaya lang yun na, hindi nagamit yung data because it came a little too late. This helped the city government obtain essential inputs being set up to strengthen and improve its disaster mitigation plans. Aside from the city's disaster mitigation plan, a quick response system was established around the Public Safety Office and its Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Unit. Partnerships with local and national institutions also resulted to attaining advanced warning systems by individual private enthusiasts like the Naga-based www.typhoon2000.ph. I do not know if you have been using this site, but this is Naga-based. Ang nagsimula po nito, isang individual lang, Mike Padua, na mula nung college student pa lang siya sa UP. Talagang nahilig na sa mga bagyo. With the help of the city government, they were able to set up in partnership with each other this particular website na nagiging source na talaga ng maraming bagay ukol sa bagyo. And the national government programs such as the Department of Science and Technology's Project NOAA. This gave the government ample time to prepare and set up precautionary and reactionary measures such as evacuating people in determined flood-prone areas and providing relevant and accurate warnings to the public. Pag sa Naga po, dahil siguro sa sanay na yung gobyerno sa kayong tao na tinatamaan kami ng bagyo, yung lahat na barangays na flood-prone, naka-assign na sila to a particular evacuation center. So pag merong typhoon warning, alam na nila which evacuation center to go to. Pero yung pinakasikreto po talaga doon, kailangan i-equip mo na yung evacuation center. Kompleto yung facilities, may pagkain na, hindi pa man pumapasok sa Philippine Area of Responsibility yung bagyo. Pero pag may danger ng tatamaan yung lugar, talagang nilalagyan na ng pagkain para hindi nahihirapan yung gobyerno magpa-evacuate ng tao. Kasi yung experience po namin sa Naga, nung hindi pa masyadong handa, ang hirap-hirap kumbinsihin ng tao mag-evacuate. Kasi ayaw nilang iwan yung mga bahay nila. Pero pag alam po nila na maayos yung kanilang lilipatan, may sistema, may pagkain, etc., hindi mahirap silang palipatin. So, it became crucial to all the evacuation efforts of the city. An interagency entity called the Joint Operations Center was also established in Naga to be a platform for efficient and effective command, control, coordination, collaboration, and communication during key events, including disasters. For long-term planning, the city government has the Integrated Naga River Revitalization Project, a 20-year urban governance initiative to revitalize the Naga River. through physical rehabilitation, water pollution control, and greenway development. This is a partnership between the city government, the Metro Naga Water District, 8 other local stakeholders, and the national government. Bakit po importante ayusin namin yung Bicol River? Kasi yun yung pinakasusi namin para hindi kami bahain. Kasi yung lahat na tubig na nasasandok ng Naga, sa Bicol River siya nahuhulog. So kailangan malinis na malinis yung Bicol River so that it can accommodate the extra amount of water that the rains bring. This project involves improving the river's water quality, building a livable city with reclaimed public space and revitalized riverside, promoting a healthy population enhanced by environment-friendly river systems, and alleviating poverty through improved economic opportunities across all sectors, and on-site or near-site resettlement of illegal river occupants. I share this long-term goal because it is rooted in alleviating poverty, and efforts in the alleviation of poverty contribute to a locality's resilience against disaster. Talaga pong mas maraming mahirap sa lugar, mas maraming biktima ng disasters. The Naga City Disaster Mitigation Plan identified that the population most vulnerable to the effects of natural calamities are the city's poor residents, because they tend to settle in areas that are relatively near the center of economic activities, regardless of site flooding conditions. Their housing units are typically made of light materials and are poorly constructed, thus highly susceptible to wind and flooding damage. If we succeed in pulling our less fortunate peers out of poverty, they will have the means to afford to build decent shelters that will be resilient against calamities. They will be free of the necessity to live close to urban areas in order to earn a living. Naga's participative governance has paid off, especially against the wrath of national disasters. In fact, 5 of the strongest typhoons that hit the Philippines from 1947 to 2006 all passed through the Bicol region. The most recent one which we had was Reming. It was the strongest to hit Bicol, with winds peaking at more than 300 kilometers per hour. Naga was the quickest community to recover. Within 3 days, power in the city's business district was restored, and public schools opened after a week. Meron lang po akong konting trivia. Pag bumabagyo po, parang yung asawa ko yung pinaka-permanent fixture on the street. Marami pong articles na nasulat sa kanya that when typhoon strike, my husband will always be the last man on the street and the first man to be seen in the morning. Pero may paniniwala po yung asawa ko yun na pag gumising yung mga tao after a typhoon, na madumi pa yung lugar, parang ang mararamdaman niya, government is not working. So siya po, madilim pa, naglilinis na siya. At mapipilitan yung mga city hall employees na maglinis kasi yung kanilang mayor naglilinis. Ang gusto niya po, pag gumising yung mga residents, wala nang putik sa kalsada, wala nang basura. Kasi ang paniniwala niya po, oras na gumising siya, na nandyan pa yung lahat na tambak, may pakiramdam siyang hindi gumagalaw yung kanyang gobyerno. So he was very anal about this. Ano po siya? Isa yun sa mga sakit niya. Pag may bagyo po, kaming mag-iina, alam na namin na wala siya. Yung Reming po, yung bahay po kasi namin apartment eh. Yung bahay po namin apartment. Hindi naman siya bagong apartment. So nung Reming, napakalakas, talagang yung loob ng bahay namin, starting 3 floors po siya, pati sa 3rd floor baha. Kasi yung ulan pumapasok mo sa bintana. Mag-isa po akong nag-ayos nun kasi yung asawa ko nasa labas. Nag-aayos ng syudad. Pero I think it was one of the things that made people more confident in their government. Because they saw that even when a big typhoon struck, government was working. It was not incapacitated. And I think that is a very important thing as far as our constituents are concerned. People participation works. Naga has shown this. Efficient and effective systems for disaster mitigation stems from a governance structure that is participative. When my husband became DILG Secretary, a number of programs were set up in the national level to drive LGUs to perform better in their disaster preparedness system. Before he died, siguro po narinig ninyo yung seal of disaster preparedness. Meron din po. The year he died, 2012, Jesse launched a program called the Tapatan Roadshow for Disaster Preparedness. Hindi ko alam if any of you here were able to participate in the Tapatan Roadshow. He visited the country's 16 regions in order to assess each LGU's mechanism for disaster response. The trip was rightfully named Tapatan. It was a situation where honesty was crucial. Each LGU was tasked to take a long, hard look at their systems and determine if their locality had the capability to act efficiently and effectively during times of calamities. The results of the roadshow revealed that the main predicament was the lack of funds. LGUs needed to purchase pump boats, first aid kits, flashlights, generators, etc. There was also an absence of an officer in charge of disaster preparedness because no plantilla item was available for the said position. However, the roadshow also divulged that there were LGUs who did not see these limitations as hindrances. They took the initiative to create their own systems that will make them more resilient against any calamity. For example, the provinces of Pampanga, Nueva Ecija, and Bulacan created a command post that served as convergence point for them to better coordinate in times of mishap. Albay established the Public Safety and Emergency Management Office, the first disaster management office in Asia, run by an LGU. To give incentives to LGUs who were prepared, the DILG launched the Seal of Disaster Preparedness under this program. The DILG was able to assess an LGU's preparedness in handling disasters. They set a checklist of necessary items that an LGU should possess to effectively respond before, during, and after a calamity, and parameters determining a locality's efficiency in mobilizing resources during an actual calamity. If an LGU complies with all the program's requirements, it will have access to funds that will allow it to further improve its mechanisms. As exhibited by the successful LGUs mentioned in this, there are no reasons for an LGU not to be prepared for any natural calamity. As the Tagalog saying goes, kung ayaw, maraming dahilan. Kung gusto, maraming paraan. Especially now that typhoons arrive more often and are getting stronger every year, we should do away with reasons and start helping each other instead. NAGA has proven that partnership works, and it is a strategy every local government unit should adopt in order to create the necessary policies and procedure to benefit their people. Governance is no longer about government alone. It is about a society working together to become resilient against any challenges that may come their way. Kahapon lang po, ito trivia ulit. Kahapon lang po, 17 legislators became founding members of the Global Legislators Organization Against Climate Change. Nag-form po kami ng parang isang organization. We are actually a branch of an international organization na para seryosohin na talaga yung problema sa climate change. Parati po kasi ang pakiramdam ko po, parati natin pinag-usapan yung climate change. Pero parang hindi pa siya nagsisink in sa consciousness. At ngayon yung nangyari sa Yolanda, wala na tayong dahilan para hindi siya seryosohin. Kaya yung finorm po namin na Philippine chapter, hopefully, kaming mga legislators will also be able to contribute legislations that will further create an environment na lahat tayo magtutulong-tulungan na at to combat the effects of climate change. Pero yung experience ko din po with my husband, parang ang ang pinakasusi po talaga yung LGUs. We saw that in Eastern Samar, we saw that in Leyte, we saw that in Cebu, we saw that in Iloilo, in Palawan, in Ormoc, etc. Parang makikita mo yung levels of, di ba, yung preparedness ng LGU. Talagang siya din yung nagiging measure ng how much damage the typhoon wrought in their respective localities. Before I end, thank you UPLB. Thank you for sponsoring this conference that brings together all the important stakeholders in our common pursuit of building more climate resilient local communities. Our country suffered a series of natural calamities, ika nga sa libro, a series of unfortunate events this year. We do not need another dramatic event to take action. What we need now at this crucial juncture is people working together and cementing collaborations to help find solutions to our problems and fight corruption. Never has the country needed our participation than today. The transformation that each one of us can help propel could be the accelerator that we need to cause our country to get out of this rut and leapfrog to greatness. Hopefully, we can bring about change not caused by crisis, but one born from a consciousness that each one of us has a part to play. We are done with an erratic pace of progress. Okay, ngayon bukas hindi. We really need to move forward. So keep on doing what you have started today. More power to all of you, and thank you for this opportunity to share my thoughts.